We aren't suffering from a lack of connection. We are dealing with the consequences of delayed time. And delayed time causes delayed honesty, and delayed honesty keeps us tethered to survival mode, constantly fighting, running away, freezing, people pleasing others, and in the process, avoiding our deepest truth. Time itself is propaganda. We can't talk about survival mode and nervous system regulation without addressing the role of time. Not abstract divine timing or God, source, universe's timing. I'm talking about time on a clock. The days, the months, the weeks, and the years on a calendar. And we're trained to squeeze divine timing into the limits of controlled time. Stay with me, we're going somewhere with this. You see, the clock is the grid's controlled pulse. The calendar holds preset lunar and seasonal cycles, holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, global events, and domestic celebrations, keeping us tied to the clock's rhythm. That's propagandized time. And it makes it easier to invest billions of dollars in colossal PR campaigns for certain calendar events because the collective pulse beats almost in unison in those events, which isn't a bad thing. It's only bad when the events themselves are used to harvest and extract collective energy to hoard for the ultra wealthy while everyone else fights for scraps. Keep that in mind when you see your feed flooded with propaganda about global and domestic events. Reclaim your time, your attention, and your energy so that you can reconnect with the rhythm of your nervous system's time. Ursula K. Le Guin once said, "What goes too long unchanged destroys itself. The forest is forever because it dies and so lives." We often think of our current governing systems when considering something that has been going on for too long without changing. But it's not the governing systems. It's the pulse of controlled time. Every living organism within the pulse of controlled time lives and dies. But many of you don't realize that we're our own individual forest and we have agency over what we do and how we respond in the space between living and dying. We are an entire ecosystem connected to other ecosystems. But the governing systems use time to delay that awareness. And they don't have the power, and because they don't have the power to eliminate the multiplicity of that, but they can reduce the awareness that forces everybody on the same timeline while simultaneously dismissing what makes us different. And that in turn creates time distortion. When we begin reclaiming our time, our attention, and our desires, we clash with that distortion and everything seems to suspend in midair. And it can feel quite destabilizing and paralyzing even. But destabilization often gets spiritualized as the end of the world or ego death. It's what it feels like when something real enters your awareness faster than the surrounding structures, still tuned into the pulse of controlled time, can metabolize it. And so in other words, you clash with people still moving at the pulse of controlled time. And most of the time, they are the very ones who are coded to meet you outside of that pulse. But you can't force anything. And they definitely can't force you. And this amplifies the timing of grief, or grief timing. And it seems like every moment for me, I'm faced with a new time-related frustration. And it's not exactly new, but when you've been in an extended holding period for as long as I have, then every thought holds multi-layers of an extended thought. And one of those layers is how we memorialize time. I watched a clip from a movie, and in the scene, the character has turned 50. And she is surrounded by loved ones celebrating, and she begins this monologue about being 30 again. And it was emotionally charged for her because it centered around all the things that she didn't get to do, all the things she wanted to do. And time just passed her by. And all the while I'm watching this and I'm saying to myself, oh boy, here we go. Another grief-stricken reflection on what somebody didn't have time to do. It's draining, it's depressing, and from the bigger picture, it's unneeded. Because it's the very thing that keeps us tethered to the distortion of controlled time, survival, hustle, and bustle, knowing we can't just cut the cord and exit, but we also know that it's not serving what actually fulfills us in the present moment. Now, speaking of my extended holding period, you see, my life has never felt fully complete. Better yet, it does complete full cycles, but it hasn't received sustained proportional nourishment. And nourishment that allows me to enjoy the fruits of my labor, to stabilize myself in what I've helped anchor. And perhaps it's because I'm still anchoring in the anchoring process, and it takes more than just me, but still, the grief of not being fully nourished in this process is a heaviness at some point, and it's a point that I hope many others get to, that can't be numbed. Now, you may be asking, well, why would I hope something like that for other people? Well, I hope for something like that because it's an extension of why governing systems subject us to conditions that would cause us to numb ourselves in the first place. Collectively, we have a distorted awareness of this very reality. We misread and misinterpret its mechanics. Our survival conditioning is the interpreter. People are portals, and every portal has a pattern. Every pattern reflects something that draws us closer to our inner truth or fragments us from it. And this isn't a moral observation, it's mechanical. Because mechanics focus on bodies, nervous systems, and survival mind integration with that intelligence. And when the body feels closer to its truth, it relaxes. When it feels away from the truth, it tenses. And what makes this complex is that these states overlap. And we live under governing systems that don't train us to embody the difference, unless it's through some controlled framework, which again is being squeezed into controlled time. Stay with me. In other words, we can know the difference as long as it serves hustle, people pleasing, and survival overwhelm. But when we embody it without optimizing for an outcome, there'd be no need for hustle and bustle frameworks. Nothing is neutral here. Everything is a conditional experience, and it's loaded with beliefs, myths, superstitions, identities, orientations, credentials that predate us. And yet, we've adopted those things to survive the deep disproportions they cause. Think about not just what you desire, but how you're desiring it. We don't challenge the what because we're not paying attention to the how. It's a bioelectrical reaction. In other words, the physical body feels an electrical current that pulls the mind's focus into something or someone. And that pull can feel urgent, highly charged with nervous excitement, infatuation, and butterflies. And socially, we think that's good. And yes, it is. When you're being trained to survive and be quick on your feet. Biologically, the amygdala, which is fear, is activated, which stops the prefrontal cortex, which is your conscious mind, from registering clean safety, which isn't good in the long run. And right now, the way that we communicate and connect, engage one another is survival primed. And the body's natural response to safety is actually unremarkable. It's charged, but not highly so. It's excited, but not nervously so. And so the intelligence of this speaks with ease and calm and clarity. But most of us know this intellectually, but it's not embodied. And the intellectual awareness brings in a grief that isolates, not to punish, but to reconfigure the body's survival presets. But if you're numbing yourself in isolation, you're not allowing the grief to be processed and resolved. Isolation can be both literal and figurative. You can be around and feel and touch others, but feel deeply unseen and unmet by them. And the same if you are literally by yourself, touch deprived. You see, isolation, loneliness, and exile are not the problems. Your inability to consistently treat yourself gently and kindly is. Process that. Because yes, you're feeling grief, but you're not processing it. And the body is tense and the energy can't move and pass through properly until you get better at breathing and coming back to your body again and again. This helps you immediately be honest about the survival concepts you are clinging to protect yourself from the sharp edges. We're often holding on to survival versions of ourselves that we've been taught to believe are our truest identities. And each time we encounter what seems like a match, it doesn't land cleanly. That's the data to reconfigure something about yourself. And yes, this could take longer than you like, mainly because the survival concepts we're most attached to are our deepest body level disconnect. That's why there's no ending to healing. Only increased capacity to hold your inner complexity while being intentional about what's externally complex. You see, human existence is a complex experience. Communicating and connecting has no one set formula for what works and what doesn't. Complexity speaks in patterns. And when you are unpracticed in the language of pattern, you'll jump to extreme binary conclusions. And then you think something needs to be healed. No, it don't. You need to commit to coming back to the breath in the body. Slow down. Pay attention. Collect data about yourself. Practice the language and adjust yourself accordingly. Then you can see how the field outside of you responds in kind. Somewhere along the way, for me, my own mind still is running the program that feeling complete means death. And as a result, my own survival mind didn't translate finish as embodied resolution. It always coincided with someone leaving, the rug being pulled out from under me, contact breaking, collapse on the horizon, and missing out on things that I wanted to do, or my body just simply being overridden, disassociated from, or abandoned. And so to cope, my system interrupts arcs, my appetite drops after food appears, desire stalls right at the edge of a clean landing, and opportunities don't complete with sustainable compensation. And it dawned on me at a certain point that my body is keeping me alive by keeping me unfinished. And so the endless metaphoric ego deaths make sense in that context. They don't require the body to leave, but an actual finish, a true closure, a real arrival still screams, if this completes, then I disappear. And this also clarifies why anticipating a harvest or a return on what I've invested here has felt dangerous rather than nourishing. Spiking urgency. But I'm not afraid of change. I'm actually afraid of not returning when change lands. And the distinction I'm making here is procedural. It's bloodline memory. And this isn't me saying I believe that's going to happen. It's just a program running in my DNA. And that means I'm simply observing it from the inside, but I'm not possessed by it. This isn't the first time that I faced this survival mind memory. This happened in 2017. I was able to integrate this by teaching my body and my survival mind that I could finish small things. I can close smaller loops and prove to myself that I could stay alive. That expanded my completion tolerance. What's different now is not the program, it's the scale and the context. All of those successful completions built the very ecosystem I'm standing in now. My life coaching program, 20 plus published books, essays, and audiobooks, subscription platforms, a music discography, and proof that I can write, produce, and film my own movie and soundtrack, but it's not nourishing me, surprising me, or meeting my output with equal vitality. So my body isn't really reacting to finishing anything anymore. It's reacting to outgrowing a livable container. In other words, the life that I'm currently in has stopped feeding the part of me that's alive right now. And completion meant survival back then, but now continuation without sustainable nourishment feels like a slow disappearance. And the body has real reflexes that I'm not numbing, bypassing, or inflating with hope. I'm deeply present, grounded, and clear-headed. I know that for me, finishing small things is no longer my inner work. I have anchoring systems to hold people who are in that very space right now. Survival competence is no longer enough for me. Refinement without nourishment is intolerable now, and my body is at a different altitude. And yes, it's remembered how to stay alive, but the question now is, can I stay, be met, and sustained in my coherence? Please don't confuse what I'm saying here with a lack of faith or an inability to think positively. Accuracy and dissatisfaction are moving together here. Neither cancels the other out. That's the paradox. And the reality is that it sounds like literal death to the survival programming. But the intelligence of my nervous system isn't affirming that, but it is validating it. And again, nothing is canceling anything out. In survival programming, when conditions become unlivable and not exactly safe or chaotic, just no longer nourishing, and this means that the system doesn't have a neutral category for it. It immediately jumps to the conclusion that this precedes some kind of loss. And when it can be seen as survival programming, it takes the edge off that thought. It can be accurately identified as something that cannot continue as it has without collapsing into a moralized, spiritualized, or philosophized story about it. And right now, the body only knows two historical outcomes for this kind of time pressure. One, stay and diminish slowly, or two, leave and disappear quickly. And there is no third category that says leave this container and remain embodied, resourced, and fed and relationally held. That category is what my body has been painstakingly trying to build from scratch and hold in my ecosystem. And so in that context, slow integration is possible, but sensations are intense, and every almost landing is triggered some kind of alarm in the body. And so I can't numb myself with spiritual stories because my body's got to stay conscious through the entire rewrite of this. That's why, if you've been following my content for a while, I've been suggesting that you double down on somatic and cognitive tools so much lately. Because on some level, we're all reprogramming the most primitive equation a human body carries. And that is, change does not require death. And time can adjust to what changes. And until that equation is proven, not just believed, imagined, or promised, the body will keep sounding that alarm. And that doesn't mean stop. It just means go at the speed of proof. The survival mind, it means that it's just enough evidence that movement does not equal death. Survival programming is not the enemy here. It's protective, and it's standing down only as fast as your lived experience allows, not your intellectual clarity. When that's active, time is no longer controlling your narrative. It's now part of a larger process that allows your desires to be refined or redefined through coherence. Your truth, your body level truth. And that does two things at once. It trains your survival mind to integrate with your body level truth, and it trains the external components around you to adjust to that truth as well, and without compromise. And yes, it's slower at first, but when you feel coherence steering the wheel, things speed up. And the external validation won't feel too good to be true, because what you desire is coming from its truest place. So, stay the course. If you've benefited from this message or any of the messages here on this channel and you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, share it, and talk to me in the comments below. And please also explore my resources at the link in the caption so you can get educated on who Joseph is. And in the meantime and in between time, please be kind and gentle with yourself in this right now moment and in the right now moments to come.